Welcome back to the Retro Remix project in Unity. In this video we will take a closer look at the level manager of the Lemurs game. You can see the Lemurs game here. And last video we left off at the initialization of the level by the level manager. We got all data for that level from the game manager, initialized all the values, created the map and created the background sprite, and then the level could start. Now we want to focus on the update loop here, and we'll go through each of those methods after each other. First thing each frame happens is we check for input, and that is the keyboard input, and all we do here is to check if escape and shift is pressed down. That will bring us back to the main menu, and the main menu is not the Lemurs main menu but the game selection main menu. There you can go into the other games. Second thing, we check for a lemur under our cursor, and that is done by taking the mouse position and converting it to a world point from screen coordinates to world coordinates, and then find the closest lemur to that mouse cursor. Let's click on that. You can find the method here, and all that does is looping through the list of all lemurs we have currently stored in here in the level manager, and then checks the distance of each of those lemurs to the position we have entered here, which is a mouse position in world space. And when the distance is below a certain distance, our current minimal found distance, then we assign the distance to the variable min distance so that we can use it for comparison in the next loop. And when we have found a new minimal distance, we also store the lemur that is that distance away from the mouse position in the closest lemur variable. And when we have finished looping through all lemurs, then we check if the minimal distance we have found is still greater than 10, and then we consider the mouse too far away from any lemur to click on it, and then we return null, so no lemur was found. Otherwise we return the lemur that was closest, that was at the minimal distance to the mouse. Let's go back here. The next thing we do, we update the cursor and the info text, and that depends on if we have found a closest selectable lemur. If we have found a lemur, then we change the mouse cursor to a rectangle, and that indicates to the player that they now can click and assign an ability on a lemur, for example. And we also want to show the lemur info for that closest selectable lemur, so we can see if it is a simple walker or a stopper or a digger and so on. Otherwise, we reset the mouse cursor to the normal crosshair and we show no lemur info. You can see it here. If you're hovering over a lemur, the cursor changes to the rectangle, and here the info texts are displayed. That lemur is a blocker and those are walkers. The next method tries to select a lemur. First we check if the player has pressed the left mouse button, and if so, we check if there is a closest selectable lemur, so the mouse button press has to happen on a lemur, and then the level manager always knows which ability is selected here in the UI. For example, here we have the blocker selected. And then we check if there are still blockers left. So getAmount for ability will look into our stored ability amount from the scriptable object for that level and tries to get the value for that specific ability. And when we have still one ability to give to a lemur, then the closest selectable lemur will get assigned that ability. And of course we are reducing our available abilities by one here. And we tell the level UI manager that the ability amount needs to be set to the new amount. That means the number here will get decreased once we select a lemur here. Back again, the next method is advanced timers. And what that does, first it checks if the game is paused or not, and if it is, it returns. No timers will be advanced in pause mode, of course. And then we have two timers, the level time and the spawn timer, and both get increased by the delta time, the time that has passed since the last frame. If the spawn timer falls below 0, and we still have lemurs to spawn, if the amount of lemurs spawned is lower than the maximum lemurs for that level, and if we have not yet nuked the level, nuking is that button, and that will let all lemurs explode. In case of such an event, we don't want to spawn any more lemurs to suffer that fate. If these conditions are fulfilled, then we spawn a new lemur. We will take a look at that in a minute, and then the spawn timer is reset to the original value. And that is calculated by the maximum spawns per second. We can see we have set it here to 4. We can change it in the inspector, of course. And the spawn rate is the number you can set here. Right now it's 15, but you can go up to 100. And let's say, for example, you have a spawn rate of 100, then this expression evaluates to 100 by 100 is 1 times 4 is 4. 1 divided by 4 is 0.25. So that means the spawn timer is 0.25 seconds. So every quarter of a second a new lemur will spawn. And of course, if our overall available level time is below 0, then we have run out of available time. And the consequence is, if the level has not yet been nuked, then we will nuke it here from the code. That is the same thing that happens when you double-click this nuke button here. Let's peek into spawn lemur. What happens when a new lemur gets spawned? First, we increase the lemurs that are currently out in the level, that have left the gate and have not yet exited through the exit gate. And we increase the total spawned lemurs. Then we instantiate the lemur prefab, the game object. It is here on the level manager, and the level manager script, the lemur prefab is assigned here. That is the prefab. And this new lemur game object is named accordingly, lemur plus a number, and that is the number of the currently spawned lemur. So the first spawned lemur gets lemur 1, the last lemur gets lemur 100, or whatever your maximum number is. Then we get the lemur script, and that is on each lemur game object, and we assign certain values that the lemur needs to know about. For example, it needs to know about the map, so it can navigate around. It gets an ability provider. We will take a look at that in the next video when we look at the lemur class. And of course, it needs to know about the exit position. Not that it needs it to find its way, that's what the player is for, but it needs to know when it reaches the exit position, then it can leave. And the lemur also has 2 events it can throw, on lemur exited and on lemur died. So every time a lemur exits the level, then it will throw an event on lemur exited, and everyone that is subscribed to that event will get informed. The same when a lemur dies. And here the level manager subscribes to these events with the lemur has exited and lemur has died method. We will take a look at that in a second. Lastly, the new lemur is added to the total list of lemurs. And these are the 2 functions that subscribe to the lemur event. So in case a lemur dies, on lemur died is called, and by that lemur has died here in the level manager is called. And what we do here, we remove the lemur, of course, from the list of all lemurs. We decrease the number of lemurs that are out, and we check if the level has finished. Maybe it was the last lemur out and now it is dead, sadly, but we can check if the level is finished now, if we have fulfilled our goal. Very similar to that, lemur has exited is called in the event that a lemur exits a level, and the only difference is that we increase the number of lemurs that are in. That means that are in the exit gate. Let's go back to our main loop. Here the last thing we do after advancing the timers and maybe spawn a lemur, we update the status text. The status text you can see here. We can see how many lemurs are out in the level, We have 10 in total here, 10 are out, in 0% because no lemur has exited through the exit gate, and here the time that is left to fulfill our goal. Let's control click on here and jump to that method. And here you can see the status text is cleared, and we append out the number of lemurs, in, calculate the percentage of lemurs that are in, and add the time. And you may wonder what this append is. For the status text, we don't use a normal string and add the text by using the plus sign, because the plus sign on strings always creates a new string. So for example, if you have level, that is one string in the memory, and if you add another part here, then a new string gets created, and if you add another part, and may it even be just a space, then a new string gets created. And if you do that very often, that is not very memory friendly, and you can run into issues with your garbage collector. So the status text is updated every frame, so it happens very often, and for that reason we use a string builder. And a string builder is one single object, and if you append text, then only that object gets modified and not a new string gets created. You can find out more information with detailed explanations and examples under this link. I highly recommend checking it out. Let's take a quick look here at the get minutes string from seconds. That just divides the seconds. Let's say we have 110 seconds left in the level, then the minutes are 110 divided by 60, and this is an integer division. So you will always get an integer value from that and no floating point precision. And that means 110 divided by 60 is 1 minute, and the rest you can find out by seconds modulo 60. That's a modulo operator, and that means dividing by 60, and what is the rest? And when we divide 110 by 60, that's 1, but the rest is 50 seconds. So we get 1 minute and 50 seconds for our input 110 seconds. And here we create the string for that, minutes, a colon, and then the seconds, also using a string builder. Let's go back to the main loop. And that is all the main loop does. But the level manager has some more methods here. Let's check them out. Here the get level name and the get level info and the get level sprite is used for the starting screen of each level, where you get presented how the level is called, and you see a small preview picture of the level, and you get some information: how many lemurs are there, how many do you have to save, what is the release date, how much time you have, and so on. And that is a string that's already formatted with different colors, and that is for the TextMesh Pro object on the UI, and the UI is asking for those information from the level manager. The get minutes from seconds we have seen. Find closest lemur as well, spawn lemur, lemur has died, lemur has exited, check level finished. That happens when a lemur dies or a lemur exits the level. Then we check, has the level been nuked, and are all lemurs already spawned, and no lemur is out. Then the level is finished, and we can call finish level, and we do it with an invoke with 3 seconds delay. So when the last lemur exits, then we don't immediately fade to black, because that felt a bit abrupt, so I added a 3-second delay. And when the level has been nuked, then let's just do it. Double click, and all these numbers pop up. And when each lemur is gone, when it has exploded and no lemur is left, then we also call finish level, but with a 6-second delay, so the particles can settle a bit more. And finish level just calculates if we have passed the level. It compares our success rate with the needed saving rate for that level, and then fades the UI to black and shows the resume panel. And in the resume panel you get shown the options to continue, to start the next level, or to restart our current level, or to load back to the main menu. So pressing your mouse button depends on if you have passed the level, then a mouse click left or right will start the next level, and if you have not passed the level, the left mouse button will restart the level and the right mouse button will load the main menu. The resume panel also shows text of how you were doing in that level. It's similar to the starting text on each level. Here the information is pieced together and it is a bit dynamic. For example, if there are more levels, then you will get the access code for the next level, so you can continue with that level if you decide to take a break for now. And if there are no more levels, then you get the "you finished the game, congratulations" message. Then we have some functions that are called from the UI. The increase spawn rate, decrease spawn rate, set selected ability, and pause unpause, and the nuke. Those are these buttons here for the spawn rate, for the abilities, pausing and nuking. And this just increases and decreases the spawn rate, of course. Here we inform the level manager which ability type has been selected in the UI. Pause and unpause, of course, sets this variable so our timers won't advance. And of course, it informs each lemur we have stored in our list that we want to pause the game. And the pause on each lemur also just sets the is paused value here for the lemurs, so they know they don't have to do anything, and the animator speed gets set to 0, so the animation also stops. Then finally, the last two methods here. The nuke is called when we double click on the nuke button, and we set our flag for that here, so we can react in the code accordingly in other places. And then we start the nuke sequence as a coroutine. And the reason for that is that we want to let each lemur explode with a certain delay to each other. So let's just take a look. If they explode, you can see not all lemurs explode at once, but a short period after one another. Let's just unpause. And they explode not all at once. This will be more prominent with 100 lemurs, of course. And that is done here in this coroutine by iterating through all lemurs we have in the level and assign the ability of the bomber. That is basically the same you can do here with that button and assign a bombing ability to a single lemur. Now every lemur gets that ability, and then we wait for a short amount of time, and then the next lemur gets that ability. And the countdown starts, and finally the explosion happens. Here we have to be a bit careful, because the lemurs is the list of all our lemurs. And if we would iterate through that list, that would lead to errors, because it may happen the small amount of time that we assign those bomber abilities to each lemur, one lemur may slip away and exit through the gate. And when that happens, the event gets called, and then the lemur will be removed from that list. And we can't remove items from a list while we're iterating over it. So we have to make a copy. We just create a simple array here, and in that array we can iterate because that array won't get changed. But of course it can happen that a lemur exits, and then that certain lemur, when we're iterating over it and reach that lemur, is null at that point in time, and then we just continue with the next lemur. So that lemur has escaped in time. That's very nice for the lemur, and it won't get assigned the ability of the bomber. So that's all the level manager does. And in the next video, we will take a closer look at what each lemur does and how these abilities work, and how a bombing ability works, and a normal walking ability, and a climbing ability. These are all different behaviors, and we will see how they are implemented in a generic way, similar to the extras in the roller maze game. I hope you are interested and tune into the next video. Until then, happy creating and take care.